All right, we are live. How y'all doing? Thank y'all so much for jumping on tonight's stream. Have an amazing person that I wanted to introduce to y'all. Sophia eats steak on YouTube, and we were in the Homestead How 24-hour carnivore live stream, which was absolutely incredible. And actually, I wasn't actually in it because I was actually at a church meeting and having a lot of fun there. But my mom and dad were able to jump on, and that's how Sophia got to know about our channel and got introduced to us. And then we saw my mom and dad saw you on there and heard your amazing story on there. And then my mom was like, "Oh, we should totally have her on the channel since we started doing carnivore interviews and stuff like that." So anyway, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people a little, just give them a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, so my name is Sophia, just like Matt said, and I have been carnivore for 169 days now. I just checked. Today is my 169th day, and I originally went carnivore because I wanted to use it to help recover from my anorexia. So I was diagnosed with anorexia in October of 2021, so over 2 years ago now at this point. And it's something that I've been dealing with since before then, before I was even diagnosed, because you still have the symptoms even before you're diagnosed. But so yeah, my health had been declining. Well, it's been going up and down for the past couple of years as I've struggled with, weight, losing weight, and then being like refed in the hospital. So let me back up a little bit. October 2021, I was diagnosed with anorexia. By Christmas of that year, I was in the hospital for malnutrition. And a couple months after that, I was sent to a eating disorder facility where I was refed on the standard American diet. And because I was refed on the standard American diet, it was very carb heavy, um, lots of processed foods, lots of added sugars. And so subsequently, I gained a lot of weight from that. And that's really the main goal of those eating disorder facilities, is to get you to gain as much weight as fast as possible.
Sure.
Right. And while that does get you like that gets you weight and more mass on your body in a very short amount of time, it doesn't really do anything to help with the mental side of things.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is that many people who go to these eating disorder treatment centers, they often are discharged, and then almost as soon as they get out, or within a few months of them getting out, they end up relapsing. And the definition of relapse in terms of anorexia is getting to a point where you have to be treated again, like in an inpatient center. So the relapse rate is actually a lot higher when you think about like people engaging in eating disorder symptoms. But as soon as I was discharged from the facility, I pretty much started restricting immediately again. And within, I think, about 3 months of me being discharged, I was already lower than I had been when I had been initially admitted to the center. So that didn't really help for me. That didn't really do any help for the mental aspect of things. And within, so within about 5 months of getting out, I think I was hospitalized again for malnutrition, and then I was on the verge of going back to the center. But then I kind of compromised with my mom and my doctor, and I said, okay, I promise I'll follow this meal plan, and I promise I'll be good. And so I narrowly escaped getting sent back to the treatment center.
Wow.
And it went well for a few months. I was following the meal plan. I was maintaining my weight. The goal was for me to start weight restoring through this meal plan, but I was like kind of limiting myself so much that like I was just barely maintaining my weight. And then by the start of this year, my mom had been kind of relaxing on the meal plan. She was letting me plate my own meals again. And uh, the eating disorder kind of started to take hold again, and I started slowly restricting more and more, restricting my calories again, and I was losing weight again. I started over exercising again. And so by May of this year, I was at the lowest weight that like I've ever been in my adolescence. So I had a BMI of about 13, which isn't as low as some patients get in anorexia. I've heard of some patients who get like extremely low BMIs. And
Hmm.
just for reference, I think the healthy range for the BMI scale is I think the low end is 17,
Okay.
16 or 17. Um, so 13 is a pretty low BMI,
Yeah.
and I was skin and bones. Like I look back at
Mm.
pictures of myself now, and I'm just appalled at how skinny I was. So my doctor, he was getting concerned again, and he was about to send me back to the hospital again for the third time for malnutrition. And if that were to happen, I most likely would have been sent back to the center for sure this time. And because of because my initial experience with the center was so negative, I just did not want to let that happen. So I was kind of at the end of my rope, and um, about 3 months prior to this, my mom had actually gone carnivore. And about 6 months prior to that was the first time she had heard about carnivore. So my mom's friend at her work, so she's a CrossFit coach. My mom's friend, she went carnivore. I'm not sure when exactly, but she had told my mom about the carnivore diet in the context of using it to treat eating disorders, because there's a dietitian. Her name's Michelle Hearn, and she's actually like I really respect her. She's like one of my heroes. She's a dietitian, and she had anorexia, and she after she became kind of a more high functioning person with an eating disorder, she became a dietitian because she wanted to help people. And she was learning all these things about nutrition, like giving people with diabetes carbs, like that didn't really make sense to her. And the acute treatment of patients in the hospital just didn't really always kind of jive with her. And eventually she started having a lot of issues herself, because she's a she's always been into running. And so she started having issues with like muscle pains and just
Hmm.
horrible like physical ailments. And she decided to make a change to her diet, and heard about she heard about keto, and she heard about carnivore, so she went on carnivore. And within a few weeks she started experiencing the benefits, and she didn't even go into it with an intention of it to help her mental health, but it did end up helping her mental health. So anyway, my mom's friend introduced carnivore diet in the context of this to my mom, of Michelle Hearn using carnivore to heal her physical pains and her eating disorder, um, as well as her helping other people with eating disorders use carnivore to get over their eating disorders as well. And so that was the first time I heard about carnivore as well, because my mom told me about it. And then when I first heard about it, I was completely like, no, why would I ever do that? Because as somebody with an eating disorder, at least for me, I was always super afraid of calories, and I was afraid of fat and red meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's kind of the narrative you're told when it comes to diet culture, is that red meat is horrible for you. If you're going to eat meat, let it be chicken, let it be lean. And fat is awful. It's gonna make you
Trouble.
it's gonna make
Yeah.
you fat.
Yep.
And yeah, so carnivore was just completely like, it was something that I had taken off the table completely. And
Mhm.
um, but then my mom, she started doing more research into carnivore, and she started watching Dr. Barry's videos, and she started listening to Kelly Hogan and Dr. Chafee. And in March, she decided, okay, I'm going to try this myself because she had some weight that she wanted to lose. And so she went carnivore, and within a few weeks, she was losing weight for the first time in like over like 3 years, which she says is like kind of a miracle because she said she had been trying so many different things to lose weight and none of it was working. And
Yeah.
so when she finally tried carnivore, it was kind of as like a last resort to see if it would help. And she was just so surprised at like how much better she was feeling, how much weight she was losing. And as she's listening to like all these Dr. Barry videos and I'm seeing she's telling me about like the weight that she's losing, I'm kind of starting to think like, okay, maybe there actually is something behind this. Maybe eating all meat isn't that crazy of an idea. And so by the time May rolls around and I'm at my lowest BMI and I'm about to be sent back to the hospital. I'm desperate, right?
Yeah.
So I decide, and the idea of trying carnivore had been growing on me over the past few months because I'd been watching my mom and how she'd been thriving on it. And so um, the last straw is when my mom, well, I had a doctor's appointment coming up, and basically we were going to determine if I was going to be allowed to stay home another week or if I was going to be sent to the hospital. And that weekend, my mom she walked up to me and she showed me this thumbnail and this title of a Dr. Barry live stream that had literally just aired. And he
Mm.
was interviewing these doctors who had worked on a case study. And it was a case study about patients who had gone carnivore. In the study, it's described as an animal based ketogenic diet, but all three patients had pretty much gone entirely carnivore. Um, but sorry. The case study was about these patients who had gone carnivore and they had had treatment resistant anorexia for years on end. Each of these patients, they had all suffered, they'd all been through treatment, they'd all tried like the typical treatment for anorexia, like the all foods fit, and it just wasn't working for them. A couple of them had been suffering for, I think, a couple of them had been suffering for like most of their lives.
Wow.
One of the patients was a younger guy, but the other two patients, they were two ladies. One of them, I think, suffered for over 30 years.
Mm. Wow.
Um, so yeah, it had been a lifelong affliction for them, they tried to recover multiple times, but they'd always end up falling back into relapse. And they tried carnivore, and something about it had just helped their mental state, and it
Mm.
had helped them get to a point where they could recover and eat in a way that helped them regain their weight and weight restore and get to a healthy BMI. And so I listened to this interview and then I checked out the study, and I decided that night that I was gonna go at least keto, and I was gonna try it because that was the first time in a really long time that I'd felt like genuine hope of any kind for recovery. Because like I said, with those two patients, they had suffered for a very, very long time. And the thing with eating disorders is this the very sad thing with eating disorders is that many patients, they suffer with eating disorders for pretty much the majority of their lives from the time that they're
Yeah.
diagnosed. And a lot of people never end up recovering from them. Well, there are, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories of people who have recovered, but I
Sure.
was just kind of hopeless at that point that I was never going to recover just because it was so dominant in my life.
Yeah.
And so listening to the testimonials from the patients and listening to the doctors who worked on the case study and listening to Dr. Barry, it was like, okay, there's got to be something to this if there's so many people who are saying that this works. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I decided to try it. So, June 21st, that was my first day of carnivore. And I woke up that morning and I had had eggs and ham cooked in butter, and I just after that, I went cold turkey, carnivore. I was strict carnivore from that day forward, and it's been it's been 169 days since then, and since then I've managed to gain a pretty good amount of weight. I think I still have some weight that I need to gain, but I've gained it's been healthy weight, so not
Yeah,
unhealthy at all.
exactly.
So, um, a lot of it has been muscle, but it also
Yeah.
a good amount of it has also been body fat because the thing is with eating disorders, your body fat gets so low that it's in an unhealthy range. So
Yeah.
I've managed to gain a good amount of both lean body mass and also fat
Yep.
mass, which is important for my health.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, things have just been vastly improved since May this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people can't start the carnivore diet because they're overweight and they want to lose some weight. And it's such an incredible, and I hate the word diet, but lifestyle.
Right.
But it's the crazy thing about the carnivore diet is that you can't you can lose a lot of weight on the diet if you are overweight, but then also if you want to gain weight, you can too on the diet. I've been doing
Right.
really well on the diet and I've gained over 10 pounds of just muscle mass. Like, and it's incredible. Like, it's been even on a whole foods diet, I was always bloated and never could ever see my abs, you know? And now I'm, about 180 days in. At day 100 or earlier than that, I was totally able to see my abs and it was like incredible. And like just biceps and different things like that. I've had two shoulder surgeries, not due to anything, just my stupidity on a trampoline. Um, but anyway, first surgery and heal time felt way longer because I was on the whole foods diet. My second surgery was on the carnivore diet, and I feel way better. And it was pretty much the same exact surgery because I re-injured it. Anyway, um, and feeling great and haven't been doing that much physical exercise, but just the little bit that I have been doing around the farm, I've been able to totally keep all my muscle mass on just with the carnivore diet. And yeah, I think it's just such a great thing that, especially if you can start young and start to, heal your body, and there's a lot of mental stuff, a lot of mental gymnastics that you have to do, especially with all the propaganda we've been fed as
Mhm.
young teens, with all the stuff, how fat's bad, like you were saying, red meat's bad. But anyway, so what have been like the biggest changes at, you're 169 days in? What are some of the biggest changes, like mentally, physically, that you've noticed in your life, you know?
Um, well, there have definitely been a lot of changes that
Sure.
I've noticed. But they're all positive. So coming from a point where I was malnourished and not getting enough calories during the day, I think definitely the energy improvement is a lot
Mm,
better. Having enough energy to get through my day is amazing.
yeah.
Other things that I've noticed is well, I mean, I've gained weight, so I'm not like all skin and bones anymore. And I do weightlifting, I do CrossFit, and so I'm noticing that like my physique is starting to get more defined, and I'm really enjoying seeing that. Like I much prefer to see myself this way than seeing myself as like a skeleton.
Mhm.
Um, I've had ever since I was young, like a really small kid, I've had really bad eczema.
Mm,
Um, so that's where you have like really dry, itchy skin.
yeah,
And there had throughout all my life, there had always been like at least some patches on my body, at least one patch somewhere where it was dry and it was itchy and it was just red all the time. But within literally a couple of days of me going carnivore, my eczema went away. Like
wow.
which is crazy. Like, that's the first time
Yeah.
that's ever happened in my life.
Mm.
Like, I'd always my so before my it had been really bad in my hands and my feet prior leading up. My hands and my feet were super dry, and then within a couple of days of eating carnivore, it completely went away, which I mean, when I think about it, that's probably the thing that I end up being most grateful for just because eczema has always been, like, awful.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know if you can see, my hair is kinda it's kinda raggedy right now, but I've had a lot of regrowth. You can see a lot of baby hairs. When you're malnourished and you're anorexic, your hair starts to get really thin, starts to
Sure.
fall out, and um, it's in the process of regrowing right now. So I don't really like I don't like how it looks
That's
right now.
actually funny
Um,
that you brought that up because I watched like your first video today because I was just trying to just brush up on stuff. So I watched your first video and then I watched your newest video from 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, looks like her hair got thicker or something like that, you know? So that's kind of funny. So
yeah. So
mentioned.
funny thing, I went so the first day that I went carnivore, my mom had a hair appointment. And so I went to her with the salon. I went to her to the stylist. Sorry, I went with her to the stylist's
Mhm.
salon, and about a month after that, I had my own hair appointment with the same stylist. And she had seen me before, but then when she saw me, she was like, "Wow, you have like a lot of new regrowth on your head." And so that was something that I was like super happy to hear. And I actually went to see her
Awesome.
last week as well, and she was saying, "Yeah, you still have a lot of regrowth. It's still coming in really good." And so yeah, my hair has definitely gotten a lot better. It's just annoying now because it's in this stage where it's like all the baby hairs are growing out, so it looks really weird like all the time unless I put a lot of effort into styling it,
Yeah.
and I don't always have time to do that. So I just go
Sure.
around with like scraggly looking hair a lot, but it'll get
So,
better eventually.
so what does so you go to public school, right? Or private
Right.
school or?
I go to a public.
Mhm. Okay, public school. So what does a typical carnivore day look like for you?
Okay.
Like with meal prep and
So
everything like that? Because I was
yeah,
really interested to hear that because I was like, I couldn't even imagine myself like that takes a lot to like go to school and then still be carnivore and everything like
Yep.
that.
Well,
I thought
I
that was
mean, it
cool.
doesn't take as much effort as you might think because
Okay.
as long as you're like, okay, so I go to school, so I'm there during lunch. So what I do is I just boil a bunch of eggs at the beginning of every week, and I take some eggs, and you can get some meat sticks that are pretty uh what's the word? Pretty
Clean.
clean. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's
Pretty
okay.
clean meat sticks. And so what I'll do is I'll take some eggs with me to school and I'll take some
Okay.
meat sticks. Um, but it's not too bad as long as I have time to prep beforehand. Um, so yeah, I pretty much just eat hard boiled eggs and meat sticks when I'm at school.
So
And I actually
so
have, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so then do you eat dinner then after you get home from school then?
Yeah, so I go to school from about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I get home at about 2:40 ish. Um, and then typically I go to the gym. Uh, I'll either so I go to the gym. I go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on the days in between that, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'll do like accessory work at home. So like more body weight or exercises with dumbbells because we have that at my house.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll do a workout and then I'll get home and then I'll eat dinner. And then I don't typically eat breakfast just because I mean, I'm eating enough at night that I don't really wake up hungry. Um, and sometimes I don't always have time in the morning for breakfast anyway. But um, I was
But
gonna say something and then it completely left my head.
it's fine.
Um,
But yeah, that is funny because I'm not a morning person either. Like I don't eat breakfast. The one thing that's been amazing for me, and I wanted to ask you too, but with my um, carnivore diet journey thing, um, from being whole foods, and we were gluten free, dairy free, sugar free, all that type of stuff, right? And then when we started adding back in dairy, um, still not doing like just like whole milk or anything like that. On occasion, maybe some half and half or cream. But putting butter back into our diet has been like life changing. Certain people can have butter and certain people can't have butter in their diet. So, it all depends on their body. So, have you been able to add butter back in or no?
I've had butter from the start. I'm
Okay.
curious. Did you guys cut out like were you just doing like beef and salt and water before
We
or
were doing, yeah, for about I forget. I don't know if it was 50 or 60 days. For quite a while of our carnivore diet journey at the start, we were just doing beef and salt, and that was really pretty much it, except for maybe some occasional like frozen fruit here and there. But that was it. And then we kept researching and looking into it, and then we saw um a couple different videos on adding butter back into your diet. So that's what I actually did. And I was struggling really, really hard. And that's another question too, that I
did
have
you
for
have
you.
a bad reaction to it?
I, in the past with Whole Foods, I had terrible acne, terrible acne when I would consume fats. So
Oh
butter,
wow.
any type of
That's
oil, coconut
interesting.
oil, it would come out of
I
my.
wonder
It was gnarly. Like, if I would literally have like a teaspoon of butter, almost within the 5 minutes, I could like, put my fingers across my forehead, and I would just be fully covered in grease, like coming out of my
that's
skin.
that's so
Really
interesting to me.
nasty.
I've never heard of anything like
Yeah.
that.
And then after going on the carnivore diet, acne and skin has been incredible. Like totally, it it does go away like 100% for me. And then, if I do mess up or if I change or cheat a little bit or whatever, then it will pop up and it reminds me real quick. Like that, like I have a little bit left because we just got back from a cruise and I did cheat a
Mhm.
little bit on some desserts. Not too crazy. That was the only thing I cheated on, was a couple desserts. I was like, I'm gonna be here. I'm not gonna have any of the other crap. No bread, no nothing. No, none of the junk food, but I will have a little bit of the dessert. So I'm paying the paper a little bit for that. But anyway, so yeah. So personally, my what my carnivore meal in a day looks like is get up in the morning. I put butter and eggs in my coffee. I immersion blend it in my coffee. Have about a quart of that in my coffee. And that's really the only reason I'm drinking the coffee, is just some way to be able to get the fat and the protein into my system. And then that'll hold me over all day long. Might have another one in the afternoon. And then pretty much I've literally only been eating one meal this whole entire time. One big meal, three or more burgers. So it ranges between burgers and roasts during dinner. I didn't get what's primarily your go-to for like a carnivore dinner, like
Well, my go-to would be a steak.
a
That's why
steak.
my channel is Sophia Eats Steak. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But typically it's just some sort of cut of meat. So I'm
Okay.
not super strict when it comes to the types of meats that I eat on carnivore, as long as it's like not been marinated in like sugar or anything,
Exactly.
or seed oils or something. As long as it's pretty much any cut of meat seasoned with like salt and pepper. Well, no, just salt. I used to do pepper. I kind of stopped doing pepper because it would kind of upset my stomach. But I'll do like either cut a steak, or I'll have pork chops, or sometimes I'll do like chicken drumsticks or chicken thighs. I don't really like the leaner cuts of meat anymore. They just don't taste as good as the fattier cuts.
Yeah.
But we'll do burgers a lot. We'll do ground beef. Um, on Sundays, typically when we do like a bigger family meal, we'll do like sometimes we'll do like a roast. We try to do something a little bit more special and like together as a family on Sundays, and so we'll do roast sometimes. We've done meatballs, we've done like meatloaf, but the way we've done it is like we don't put breadcrumbs in it or anything. We do pork rinds ground up.
Okay. We
Um,
haven't yet. Yeah.
yeah, so I like to mix things up a little bit when it comes to meals.
Sure.
Um, but
So have you been
anything,
experiencing any like carb cravings or anything like that during the or if is it really hard to are you like can you control yourself really well when it comes to cravings, or do you feel like you just can't put yourself in a position like if somebody would be like, here's a cookie, would you reach out and take it, or would you be able to have the mental capacity to say no, it's okay?
yeah, so I mentioned this in one of my more recent update videos. I haven't
Mhm.
been able to put out very many update videos lately just because I've been like crazy busy.
Mhm.
But I mentioned this in like my second to last update video. I've been craving carbs like a lot more since like the beginning of October. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
My parents think it could be like a physiological thing where it's like
Yeah.
it's getting colder and so the winter's coming so the body's craving more carbs so it can pack on the fat.
Sure.
Um
Possibly.
that's literally just a theory that, that we have. Don't know if it's true or not. Don't know if there's any
Mhm.
like scientific backing, but I have been craving carbs more and more lately. However, I don't really have too much of a problem like resisting those cravings.
Okay.
Um, I mean, before I even went carnivore, I did restrict a lot. I wouldn't let myself eat the foods that I wanted when I was
Mhm.
craving them. So, I mean, I have a lot of practice doing that, I guess, which isn't the best. But I mean, I do have days where I do have sort of cheat days. Um, sometimes on Sundays, my mom, she'll make like dinner rolls or something, and they're homemade. They're made with like whole ingredients, so like whole wheat. They're made with honey. I know it's in them. There's not really anything that's like awful in them. So
Sure.
sometimes I will indulge and I will have some carbs. Um,
Yep.
and I know not all carnivores do that, and I know not all carnivores like approve of that sort of thing.
It's,
But I think it's important to let
doesn't
yourself
need to
like
be perfect.
yeah, I think it's important to indulge in your cravings from time to time because then it's not like I can never ever have these things. Because then
Yeah.
when you do eventually indulge in those things, you end up breaking down and sometimes you end up binging on them because you lose
Over.
control. And that's something that, like, as I have indulged and I've been experimenting with those sort of things, that there have been times when I have felt myself kind of losing my grip on like my willpower and my control, and so what I'll have to do is I'll have to pull back, but I think I've been getting better at it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Personally, for me, because I was always like a food fanatic, growing up, I was going to be a really, really big guy. Um, back when I was, on the conventional American organic whole food diet, having all the milk and all the sugars and all the gluten, um, it's crazy because back when I was like 14 or 15, I I was in size 32, 32 pants. And now since going on the carnivore diet, I trimmed down to my waist size is now a 29.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's crazy. Um, and so I had to go out and like buy new jeans, and so it's a little bit tricky, But anyway, so I found out because I have carb cravings and stuff like that too. The downside the upside about the carnivore diet, at least for me, is that my body disciplines me when I eat something bad. Like
Oh, no, yeah. I've
if
experienced
food
that.
have cheated and my body will definitely correct me in my
Yeah.
mistake, you know?
Yeah,
So
there have been times in the past few months where I've had like a brownie that I've made, or I've had
yeah,
some dessert. Few hours later, I am feeling awful. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
your body's telling you that it just doesn't want it. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So
that definitely helps me to do it less.
less. Yeah, I found mainly what's worked the best is like the only time I'm really tempted is like if I'm going into the grocery store and stuff like that. So I find the best way to compensate for those cravings and stuff like that is eat before I go out. If I'm totally full, I look at it and I don't
Yeah,
even want to eat it. It's
if you're
all
mhm,
about being full, and listening to your body. That's the other crazy thing that I wanted to talk about too is with the carnivore diet, you are so much more connected to your body and how you're
right.
acting and you're sleeping. And you'd be like, oh, I did have that one thing yesterday. And that's probably why I didn't sleep so good the night before or whatever. It's just, you're so much more in tuned. And since my dad went carnivore, probably close to a half dozen or more people at his work went carnivore. And they're like, dude, it's so awesome. They're all like, they're all collaborating and talking to each other and everything. And
Yeah.
it's so great. And they're like, I'm just so much more connected to my body through my
Oh,
food than I was before.
yeah, that's the same thing that, like, we're experiencing as well. I mean, we know people at the gym. There's another lady at the gym who's like, she's gone pretty much entirely carnivore, and she was telling us the other day, like, it's so crazy, like how I can feel like the foods that I'm eating and how they're affecting my body,
Yeah.
and it's insane, like this ripple effect, like seeing how like people seeing you do so well on the diet
Mm.
makes them want to try it. And so like we're seeing more and more people like ask us about it, like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah. That's the biggest thing that our family tries to do. Like when we're in social gatherings or at church and all types of stuff like that. We don't try to like shove it down people's throats. But if you ask us, we'll tell you. We're more than happy to
definitely.
spread the
Right.
word about it. But we're not going to be like, if you're not doing carnivore, you're an idiot.
No, that's the
Um,
same with us.
yeah. So
People have a right
and
to eat what they want to eat.
there's so many different ways to do it. You got keto and different things like that. I would say with the keto thing, it's kind of trickier because there's so much keto junk food out there.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's really easy to cheat and be like, well, it's keto. It's like
Mhm.
when you're vegan. Well, it's vegan. Cotton candy's vegan, kids. So it's like have cotton candy. So anyway, yeah. So staying more on topic, trying to see if there's anything else here. So your whole entire family's carnivore then, I guess?
Not our whole
Mm,
entire family. So there are two of us, two other kids living at home. Neither of them are carnivore.
okay.
But my mom she's pretty much ketovore.
Okay.
Well, she's carnivore like most days of the week, and then
Sure.
some days she'll have like some 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 more ketovore-ish stuff.
Mhm.
And then my dad, he's what I would call a dirty carnivore. I mean, he's not strictly carnivore. He does eat a lot of meat, but he's not really picky about if it has like seasonings or sugar on it. And sometimes he'll have some carbs or some sweets, but he's mostly carnivore. So
Okay.
about half of us are carnivore.
Okay. Yeah, and what we were talking about this right before we went live too. A lot of people when they're going, when they're listening about the carnivore diet, and they're kind of apprehensive to do it or check it out or research more into it. Especially if you don't have any symptoms or ailments like I didn't like I did. I didn't have any symptoms that I knew of. I kind of lived with them all my life, like acne, and this was the one thing that I was just thinking today. I struggled big time with back pain, lower back pain,
Oh,
upper back pain, um, my whole entire childhood. Like, always going to the chiropractor perpetually. And I stopped going to the chiropractor and just did a lot of stretching and rolling my back out on a roller at home, upside down machine, stretching yourself out. And that's the one thing I really haven't done this whole entire time while being carnivore is felt like my back, like getting tight. Like even when I'm sitting down editing for hours on end or driving for hours on end, I get out and I'm like, dude, I'm perfectly fine. Like we went on a 15-hour road trip one day from Texas to North Carolina, and I
wow.
got it
Jeez.
and felt pretty much like 98% fine, for 15 hours in a car.
Yeah,
It was
yeah. 15 hours.
before carnivore, I would have practically been dead. And the same with my dad. Our whole entire family's carnivore. I would say my mom and my dad have had the most success out of the diet because they had the most symptoms. And that's the crazy thing. Like you live your whole entire life, right? Dealing with these symptoms and you just kind of get immune to them.
Well,
And
yeah, you're just desensitized to
yeah,
them.
you're desensitized to them. So then when they all disappear, or at least a lot of them disappear, you're like, oh my goodness, I had these hidden symptoms that I didn't even know that I had, and it's just so, and my dad grew up on a more whole foods diet. He struggled with all types of stuff his whole entire life. My mom was the direct opposite, literally grew up, no joke, just on Pop Tarts her whole entire
Mhm.
childhood, young adult life. Um, so she had a lot of healing from that to do, and then from whole foods to vegan. Um, and then and then she's being on the carnivore diet now for 180 some odd days now. She's lost like over 30 pounds. And it's just incredible. And she's about like 4 foot 9 or 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's small. So, she shouldn't be a big person at all, So, yeah, she's really been absolutely loving the carnivore diet. Um, yeah. So mainly what we did is we were strict with the carnivore diet in the beginning. And then nowadays it's the only thing that we've really added in was butter, of course, and of
Some more
like
dairy, right?
of this week. This week we added back in some sour cream. So we did do that, but that's not like perpetually. It's just like a treat. Um, a little bit of half and half. This week we added back in, and then um, we have frozen fruit in the freezer if we want it. And that's just like if you're kind of feeling like, oh, I want some frozen blueberries or whatever, then we'll go ahead and do that. But normally, like that's the crazy thing. It's like if you're full, you don't really
You don't
feel
wanna
like
eat.
eating
Yeah.
stuff. So, but yeah, that was the one thing that you said. Did you have any questions for us since we raise cows and different things like that? You were saying you were really intrigued about that in the beginning.
Yes. So I don't know if I have any. I didn't really think about any questions specifically, but I just the
Sure.
idea of like raising cattle and like being able to control like the quality of their life and make sure that they have a good life and that they're not being fed junk like a lot of cattles that are bred to be like mass produced into the and cut up in the supermarkets. I think it's so cool what you guys do. Like honestly, it's something that I would love to be able to do, like learning how to raise cows and take care of them. One question that I would have actually is probably like how many cattle do you keep in your herd? Or do you have
Um,
multiple?
well, right now we only have one herd, and we're kind of in limbo right now. We used to have longhorns, and we started selling our own beef, which was awesome. But then more and more and more people. Like we kept selling out every month, and we did that for about 3 or 4 months. And we're like, if we're gonna really try to make this into like a small company selling our own local beef to our local community, I'm like, we can't keep doing Longhorns, even though they're super pretty. We just need a beefier breed. But we're still working with limited acres over there at the ranch. We have 25 acres, but only about 14 acres that that's a field. 14 acres is a field, and then we just had clear cut another 5 or so acres back in the back. So that'll take several years to turn into pasture land and stuff like that. Right now, as we speak, we have about 8 cows over there, but we were up to 15 or 16 cows. And now we've been selling them off slowly but surely, and we're switching over to a black Angus lowline, a lowline black Angus variety. You can double the cows per acre. Their meat to body ratio, if you have a higher end breed, is way better. Like at least that's what they're supposed to be. So anyway, so that's what we're doing. It's a slow process, getting cows in, selling a couple cows off. So I think we're down to about 4 Longhorns now or so. So, and we got a couple black, mini black Angus, and we made a mistake, and the lady kind of rickrolled us a little bit, and she sold them to us as low lines. And
really?
Yeah, they were minis.
Oh my goodness.
So
So like, how does the value compare to those?
So the value for breeding stock for minis is, I guess, according to her, which in Northeast Texas, everybody has the best cow, and it's the world's best cow and everything like that. So anyway, it's quite hilarious. But for breeding stock, it's great, I guess. But they literally weigh like 200 pounds. So you can't get any beef off of them. But she sold them to us as low lines. And then we did more research about it, and we kind of talked to her, and and kind of questioned her on certain things. And then she kept saying minis, and we're like, uh-oh, I think we just caught her in her own lie, because she keeps saying minis, and I think she means low lines. So yeah, we have 5, we bought 6 mini black Angus. And then that same day, one of them died on us.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to make a video about it because it was so crazy. But anyway, it's fine. So now we're in the process of looking for legit black Angus lowline. So if there's anybody out there that's watching this and you have legit lowline black Angus, contact us at countrytexasboys@gmail.com. And if you are in close to the Northeast Texas area, maybe we could work something out, because so this is always a fun fact. We go through 1 cow a month in meat. We have
for 7 your family.
Yeah, we have 7 chest freezers that we keep full. And 1 cow a month, and we tell normal people that, and they're like, that's insane.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's a lot of meat.
I mean, we go through a lot of meat in our family, but not nearly that much. That's crazy.
Yeah.
1 cow a month. And how many pounds of meat do you get off of?
That's about 400, maybe a little bit more than 400 pounds. Yeah.
So how many people do you have in your family?
So we have 8 in all. So it's a decent sized family. And then like if we're gonna make burgers, like we made burgers last night, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I got out like 8 pounds of ground beef. So for a dinner. And the one thing that's really been helping us out too is doing like 1 meal a day mainly. And then the little ones will have eggs and stuff in between, because they're still growing and everything like that. But yeah, it's a lot of meat. So that's really why we started growing our own uh, herd of cows. That's why it's so important now, because we were Whole Foods and we were barely eating any meat. And then we learned about the carnivore diet and we're like, we can literally totally like cut our grocery bill all the way down to practically zero, except for buying the occasional pack of bacon or two for
Right.
like for the weekend sometimes, and then butter. And for several months in the beginning of carnivore, we didn't go to the grocery store. Our
Wow.
refrigerator was it was creepy. It still is a little bit creepy. There's nothing in it, like other than like some mustard that might be in there from the beginning. Um, and that's pretty much it. And butter, of course. I wanted to make a video about like a short, just about how empty our double door refrigerator is, because we got a double door refrigerator back when we were on Whole Foods and like
Right.
vegan, and we had to put everything in the refrigerator, and now everything goes in the freezer, so it's just like wide
Mhm.
open now.
Yeah,
So
we at the beginning when I first went carnivore, we bought another freezer so that we could start storing more meat because we've always had a big chest freezer out in our garage, but recently we've started buying a lot more meat because we're eating a lot more of it, and so we've got this whole new freezer that we've filled up with meat.
yeah, and for the last thing, would you say that, because there's a lot of people that when they hear about the carnivore diet, it's like another knee-jerk response that they'll say, other than nutrition and different things like that, that they'll say, you know, oh, I couldn't afford that. What would you say to those people that say, I just can't afford that?
I'd
What would
say
your response?
that okay, so when you're eating only meat, there
Hmm.
are a few things that come with that. One is very, very satiating because you're eating a lot of protein. Um, two, you're getting a lot of nutrition from that meat. And so with those two things, your body doesn't need to eat as much food as you usually do when you're eating the standard American diet because you're putting all these carbs into your body. You're not actually getting the nutrients that you need. So your body keeps telling you to eat more and more and more. And so you end up eating a lot more food when you're on the standard American diet. And so you do end up eating less when you go on carnivore just because the food is so satiating and so
Yeah.
nutritionally dense.
Yep.
So that's one thing. Um, and there are definitely cost-effective ways to do carnivore as well, I think. If you're doing carnivore and you really are committed to it, you're really committed to improving your health or losing weight or whatever your goals are when it comes to doing carnivore,
Sure.
there are ways that you can do it that are more cost-effective than, say, eating a ribeye every single night. You can get
Yep.
ground beef, you can get
Yep.
bacon, you can get butter, you
Yep.
can get eggs. That stuff is all a lot cheaper than
They,
the nicest grass-fed cuts of meat. You don't
mm,
have to be eating grass-fed Wagyu steaks in order to do carnivore right.
very true.
I think any form of carnivore is better than the standard American diet. I mean, sure, eating
100%.
grass-fed is probably going to be at least a little bit better for you in the long run than eating like grain-finished meat. Um, but
But
there- I just think in comparison to the standard American diet,
so much better.
even the cheaper things that you can get on carnivore are so much better for you. So there's
Yeah.
things like ground beef. I think I already listed them. Ground beef, bacon,
Yeah.
eggs.
Yeah.
What I do actually is so so here in Utah we've got grocery stores and they're called Smiths and they're basically like Kroger's. They're
Okay.
like a Utah brand. I think they're the same parent company.
Okay.
But every week they will have like well not every week, but they'll put out their meat that is like a little bit older and they'll reduce the price. And
Yeah.
so what you
They
can
do the
do
same
is what
thing down here.
yeah, so we'll go to Smith's every single week and we'll see what kind of reduced meat that they have. And usually they'll have nicer cuts like New York strips or ribeyes or sirloins. They have like it varies from week to week. But they'll have reduced cuts of meat. Sometimes they'll have ground beef, sometimes they'll have pork. They had tomahawks one time that were reduced, and so we got some tomahawks,
Wow.
and that was an awesome weekend. Um, but yeah, so they'll reduce the meat, so you can get some nicer cuts, and they are a little bit older, but I haven't really had much problems with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's the other thing too. We're going to be wrapping this up too pretty soon here, but that was the one thing that you were saying too is, any form of the carnivore diet, it doesn't have to be grass fed, grass finished, organic, Um, I think a lot of people can't even comprehend how much toxic chemicals are on fruits and
oh
vegetables
man,
nowadays.
yeah,
It's quite incredible, and,
like the
you know,
pesticides
let me
that they spray
just
on
the
them.
pesticides, it's incredible, and then, like, that's the big thing that we started dealing with going the whole foods route is you are so you are so tied to the food system because you need, your gluten-free flour, you need your oats and different things like that. And then you got to put all your faith and trust in the USDA, and they're putting their stamp of approval on it. And they always lie about everything. So now you're trusting that this grain is organic that you're putting into your body, and you have no idea. No idea, you know. Um, so being able to, it's really awesome if you can get hooked up with a local farmer or butcher shop. But
Yeah,
if not, um, doing what you're doing, going to Smith's or your local grocery store and picking up those cheaper meats. It is a ruminant animal, so their gut can process so many
yes,
toxins. It's really incredible. And my mom and us kids have been listening to a lot of interviews, and it's the studies that have been coming out of what the cow and these ruminant animals can digest and break down and filter out through their livers and kidneys and stuff like that
right.
is quite incredible, you know?
Like,
And,
yeah, they're designed to eat. They're designed to eat the plants. We're designed to eat the meat.
yeah, exactly. So, and I think, it's not a perfect world, we still have a little bit of fruit in our diet and things like that. It's just, having the majority of it be beef, and meat and animal based, and really not consuming those highly processed foods because, in the vegan culture, the whole foods culture, the organic food culture, organic junk food, you fall in that trap. It's so easy because they're like, it says organic on it. It's an
Mhm.
organic Oreo, so it
It's good
means it's
for
good for
me.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you fall into the trap. And I've seen in the last couple years here, the organic health food, junk food boom is incredible. It most of our grocery stores around here have several aisles of organic junk food, and it's has 8 billion ingredients in it, and it is so
Mhm.
bad for you, but people get tricked into it because it says organic, healthy, crunchy, on it. And, it's a really easy trap. We were trapped into it, and I feel for other people that, get into those, situations, and they have ailments, and they go to their doctor and he just hands them another drug, and it doesn't fix the problem. Also, this video is not medical advice. We had another live stream of ours get taken down for medical misinformation. So this is a comedy show, not medical misinformation. So there you go. Good old YouTube. But anyway, it's been 1 hour, and I definitely respect your time. Thank you so much, Sophia, for jumping on the live stream.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
And
much. I would actually, I mean, if we could schedule another interview to do sometime, that would be great too.
that'd be great. And my mom is a little bit under the weather right now, so she would have been on tonight. So maybe when we reschedule, I'll she should be totally feeling better by then. All the stress of vacation, I think, got to her, so she was feeling it a little bit. So she was like, "I think you can just go on there all by yourself tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." So yeah, we'll definitely have to do another one. It'll be exciting too because you know, you'll be able to give us another bigger update next
Yeah,
time. So yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, it
So
was
I'll get
great.
that scheduled sometime and
Sure.
then
Yeah, that'd be great.
okay.
Yeah, and it was great chatting, and
Yeah.
it was great hearing your story and all that type of stuff. Hopefully everybody out there watching, thank y'all so much. If y'all do, please go and check out Sophia's channel. It is linked in the description down below. I know we're streaming over at Rumble too. In the Rumble description, her channel's over there. Go subscribe. She has some awesome content. And if you do want to go get some amazing products, go check out TheTexasBoys.com. There's raw honey, all types of different coffees, from CBD coffee to lion's mane coffee, several different types of organic coffees and teas, all types of neat stuff over there. Go check that out. That supports the channel and getting awesome people like Sophia on to interview. And with all that said, y'all, hopefully y'all will have a great rest of your day, and we'll see y'all later. All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for having me.